So the first step on this is to enter our function. So I'm going to go to my y editor. I'm just going to replace what I have here. So I'll clear that one out and type in this new equation. So 2x squared minus 6x plus 6, hit enter. So there's my function. So I've entered it on my calculator. All I need to do now is go to and view it in the graph. And so I can answer some of my tendency questions here, right? Is this graph opening up or down? Now remember, I didn't even really need to use my calculator to establish that, right? If A is greater than 0, if A is a positive number, it opens up. It opens down if A is a negative number, right? Okay, so if it opens up, does that mean this vertex is a maximum or minimum value? Is it the very highest or the very lowest point? It's a minimum, it's the lowest point, so we can select minimum here. And then again, we can look at the A value. Remember, if absolute value of A is greater than 1, it's narrow. If absolute value of A is less than 1, it's wider. So which one does this fit into? Absolute value of 2 is greater than 1, so it's going to be a narrow graph as well. And so I get all my graph tendencies answered. And actually, if I wanted to, I can continue to answer. The one other thing that I can answer without even referring to my calculator is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always 0, c. What's my c value for this? 6. Okay, now it turns out that I can answer this last question here on the top section as well, because in looking at my graph, does this graph ever cross the x-axis? Is it going to intersect the x-axis anywhere here? No, so you expect this is going to be none. There are no x-intercepts. There's no place where that graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, I'll show you the calculation form of it to verify this, but you'll see that there is none. Okay, so all I have to do here is find my vertex, which will give me the axis of symmetry, and evaluate for x equals -2. So let's see how we do this. We go into the F5 tab. We want to find our vertex, so we established that our vertex was a minimum. So I'm going to choose number 3 here, the minimum. My lower bound has to be some value to the left of the point that I'm finding. So the location of this crosshair is already to the left, so I can just hit enter. My upper bound needs to be to the right of this vertex. So I'm going to keep scrolling along my graph until I get to the right. My crosshair is now to the right of that. I can go up further if I want, but as long as just when it reaches past the right, to the right of it, you can hit enter again as your upper bound, and it'll give you the lowest point between those. So my lowest point is 1.5, and the corresponding y value, 1.5. Okay, which means my axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals 1.5. Remember, here's my axis of symmetry. It's just the vertical line through this x-coordinate of the ordered pair of your vertex. Okay, since there's no x-intercepts, I can go ahead and just evaluate for x equals -2 right now. That's also located in that F5 Math tab. It's under value, so I can just choose number 1 value and then type in -2, and it's going to evaluate when x is the number I typed in, and so it gives me my answer of 26. Okay, so I'm able to answer all of these questions just staying right there in that graphing window. Okay, now let's say I wanted to confirm this one and this one on my home screen, since that one is possible to confirm. Okay, if I wanted to solve for my x-intercepts, again, F2 Algebra tab, choose Solve, identify my generic y1 function, the function that I entered into that y1 location on my y-editor. If I set that function equal to 0, it will tell me all the x-intercepts. All I need to know is what x values will give you a y value of 0 for that function. And when I hit enter, since I established that it should be none, this is going to say false, which it does. Okay, that confirms that there are no x-intercepts. And then if I wanted to evaluate for x equals -2, I can use my function notation once again, y1 of x, and I can just plug in the value I'm testing or evaluating here. So evaluate when x is -2. So I get y1 of -2, hit enter, and it confirms my answer of 26. All right, now just really quickly what you're going to see on your homework, there will be some cases where the vertex needs to be written in rational form. Okay, and so you might need to manually solve the vertex. If you recall, to manually solve this, you have your y equals ax squared plus bx plus c form, and you'll find the x coordinate by taking negative b over 2a, and you'll find the corresponding y coordinate by taking that whole function. So let's say we call it y1 of, just like what we did here, y1 of, and then you just type in whatever value you got for your vertex, the x coordinate of your vertex. So if you evaluate this function, which we'll call y1 here, and if we evaluate that function for negative b over 2a, it will give you the corresponding y value coordinate of your vertex. Okay, but like I said, there are going to be some cases where it asks you to use rational form.